I will try to survive and find my way out of this new Minecraft dimension filled with deadly spiders, beetles, wasps and dragonflies. I severely regret that decision looking back, as I am frightened extremely easily. I might have developed a mild case of entomophobia. If you like the video, subscribe, and if you only like to watch me getting chased by a stag beetle and grabbed and dropped from tens of meters, then subscribe 2 times. I awoke in a room made of solid brown rock. With no other option, I started carving out the tunnel with my bare hands. I soon heard strange hissing sounds from my left and decided to follow that sound. That was a mistake. Oh no no no, oh no no no. You can bet that I went straight in the opposite direction. When I finally broke through to the surface, I immediately went about getting tools to defend myself. I had a feeling that those spiders would be one of the more tamer mobs I would encounter. With my brand new stone sword, I went back to the spider dungeon and beat up all the spiders. The loot was meh, but I found iron in a neighboring cave. I got more wood and got to smelting the iron I had found. When I realized that the blue fruits hanging from the ceiling were edible, I got as much of them as I could while the iron was smelting. With the iron, I crafted myself a sword, which I put to use only moments later when I encountered 2 aggressive, enormous flies. When I saw a humongous beetle trapped in a small pond, I quickly rushed over to finish it off, as I most likely wouldn't have stood a chance if it hadn't been defenseless. I needed more gear, fast. Frantically I got myself an iron pickaxe and mined an ore that I have never seen before. Jade. I made myself another pickaxe with the new material and cut down a large red mushroom. My greed made me follow the ores from one cave to another. I cut down another large mushroom and started smelting all the ores I had collected. With some iron pans and a jade chestplate, I felt like I could easily beat this world. Oh, how wrong I was. Out of the blue, several camouflaged mantises sprang in ambush on me. I fled as fast as my feet could carry me, and as I was rushing through the thicket, an enormous mosquito and a beetle attacked me. The adrenaline in my veins helped me shake off the pursuers, and I stumbled onto a plane. The sound of flattering bee wings made me nearly have a heart attack, and my panicked, instinctive attacks luckily didn't land. Although I still got attacked by pesky flies, this plane seemed like a good place to build shelter, and I could at least see my predators coming. That naive thought was crushed when a dragonfly tried to use the power of gravity to squish me. After I killed the dragonfly, I got more wood while fending off more of the flies and beetles that camouflaged themselves as blocks. With the threat of more dangerous predators looming over my head, I carved out a cave on the nearest hill. I also put down wooden slabs so no mobs would spawn in my shelter. And as much as I hated all the creatures, I finished the build with a wall of sturdy fence, so I could still keep an eye on them. While building the stairs to my shelter, I came into contact with an oversized grasshopper. He didn't attack me, but his legs were edible. I nearly got suffocated by invisible blocks, but I luckily had mushroom stew on my hands to heal back up. Even with all the mushrooms I had gathered at the start, I was already running low on food, which was why I went out to collect water for a farm. And while running back to base, 2 of those deadly dragonflies attacked me, and right after that I received blindness from killing a glowworm. Now my sense of direction was completely screwed up. I got attacked again and again by tens of different mobs as I started walking in a random direction. Apart from the usual suspects, I also found a beetle with enormous mandibles. I was clearly not geared up to fight that monster. Finally, I somehow found my way back home with 4 hearts and no food left. With no time to waste, I started construction on a melon farm and an alcove for the native dark fruit to grow. Only then did I remember that I hadn't slept until now, and it seemed to get darker outside. I crafted myself a bed and received an unpleasant surprise, to say the least. What the frick? I got out in time, but when I tried to kill the beetles, they hit me through the fence and pushed me to my death. I died multiple times trying to get back to my home, but finally got through. The beetles had despawned by now. The proper way to set your spawn point would be using the adventurous armchair, which somehow wasn't an option for me, so I'll set it manually from now on. Still, the food shortage remained, and after putting it off for some time, I went out exploring once again. This time though, I decided to place blocks so I wouldn't get lost. I entered a savanna biome and stumbled onto a structure with a spawner. I approached the spawner only to be completely wrecked by several locusts. Probably seeing the easy prey, a spider decided to join in on the action, and all I could do was run for my life. I harvested the dark fruit that had grown on my farm and decided to explore my surroundings in the opposite direction. I found a dungeon that managed to cheer me up despite having bad loot, as killing the spiders made me regain some of my self-confidence. It would also boost my self-confidence immensely if you press that red subscribe button. Actually, 0% of you are subscribed. No joke. Stealing loot from dungeons seemed difficult, so I needed to craft it myself. In classic Minecraft fashion, I went underground, where I got ludicrous amounts of iron from caves. Yet the thing I needed most was more valuable resources like diamonds. When I didn't find anything of value after an eternity of strip mining, I decided to look up hints on the internet, only to find out that the only way a player could obtain better gear above diamond was to explore the world. I was reminded of why I hadn't done so already when I nearly got killed trying to approach the spawner for a second time. When the brute force method didn't work, my brain cells went into overdrive and I decided to dig my way to the spawner. Yeah, that didn't exactly work. There were simply too many of them. Even placing down a water bucket wasn't enough. As a last resort, I tried towering up. I was quickly reminded that locusts had wings. After getting my stuff back, I was more sure than ever that I not only needed better equipment, but I also needed to find the antlion overlord who guarded the portal of this dimension. During my exploration, I found a group of larvae that I slaughtered for food. Their mom didn't seem to appreciate the gesture and killed me. When I had my gear back, I killed every insect that crossed my path until I stumbled onto a swamp. Only one poisonous spider was enough to bring me back down to 3 hearts. I decided to leave them alone for now and instead return home. I decided to expand the storage capacity of the shelter and crafted myself an iron greatsword, as I didn't really care as much about damage as keeping the insects as far away as possible. And it did indeed work. I even got brave enough to venture into the swamp. When I spotted another structure that must contain more valuable loot, I promised myself that I wouldn't fail this time. After narrowly surviving getting back to base, I got more food and got back to the lily pad dungeon. After killing creepy pond skaters, I was ready to jump into the murky swamp water and face the challenge. To my surprise, killing all the dragonflies was easy as their main attack was rendered useless with being in the water and all. The loot in the chest was indeed pretty good and I rushed back home to secure it. I also found out that you could apparently milk the peaceful beetles for beetle juice, but my character didn't want to drink it. Now that I'd beaten the first 2 dungeons, I couldn't stand that I still hadn't looted the nearby locust dungeon. When I rushed over to try conquering it for a 3rd time, I managed to destroy the spawner before locusts could even spawn. And I got this incredible loot. When I tried to bring the loot back home, a wasp completely wrecked me. And I was once again reminded of how useless wasps were. Only watching a video of a dude putting a bug zapper near a nest and me getting my stuff back quelled my anger. Finally, I decided I would just walk into one direction, no matter what happened. There was a mountain standing in my way, but after marking the entrance, I simply buried through. I continued on with that combination of digging and running until I found this new Badlands style biome. My main goal was this enormous pile of dung. Although it was degrading, I shoveled my way into the dung mound and found a chest. The only problem now was that a larvae had latched onto me and it was steadily sucking out my blood, which made me hungry. Not knowing what else to do, I rushed back home and let myself be killed by a bug. I was then able to retrieve my stuff and continue my journey. After traversing another large plain, I caught sight of a desert biome in which the antlion overlord resided. Because I was low on food, I walked back, got all the food I had and went out into the desert. Luckily, a pyramid had spawned, which I knew from the boss bar above, but I had my hands full for the time with all the antlions and fire ants. Without hesitation, I dropped down onto the large pyramid. I first needed to find and kill all the 4 mini-bosses that hid in the labyrinth. It didn't take me long to find the first boss. Yeah, I'm easily frightened. I managed to kill him and continued through the labyrinth, always following the right-hand rule. I nearly shit my pants when I found this mini-boss, but by keeping him at a distance, I was able to defeat him. Ironically, I was able to beat the poison boss, but died when I fell into one of the lava holes that littered the maze. It took me several tries to just run past all the enemies, but I reached my stuff. In this long corridor, I encountered the last guardian, who I also slaughtered with my trusty longsword. Determined, I fought my way through hundreds of antlions and lava crabs until I reached the pyramid once again. I barely managed to kill the enemies chasing me, and a fly larvae once again latched onto me. By accident, I found out that the larvae take fall damage, which I used to get it off of me. I put all the scabbards from the guardians into the designated spots and was thereby granted access to the boss room. After placing down all the required materials to summon the boss, the final portal opened. The developers were also so kind as to give every player a potion of night vision and fire resistance. I took a deep breath and entered the portal. As soon as I saw the enormous antlion effortlessly crushing 2 poison spiders, I realized that I was heavily undergeared for this fight. I had thought that I had superior range with my longsword, but the antlion's overhead bash and his jump slam dealt damage to the entire arena. My 2 brain cells went into overdrive and I ran to the side of the arena where I towered up. That strategy worked pretty well in the beginning. My laughter got stuck in my throat when I left my platform and tried to fight him head on. I nearly died there.
What the frick?
Pride comes before a fall, kids. With my heart pounding, I circled back to my platform. When the antlion was close to its death, I dropped down and delivered the last strike. As if wanting to put the cherry on top to all the near-death experiences I had in this game, a burst of fire set my weakened body aflame. And I dove through the portal leading out of the dimension at the last second with only 1 heart left. If you like the video or now also have a case of entomophobia, then subscribe.